Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first season of Vintage Club Conversations. Today, we have with us Manish Jindal, sales leader, GTM advisor, investor. Manish has worn several hats over the years. He spent a decade building and scaling the revenue function at Cloudflare, and today he heads the revenue org at DevRev. Manish has the unique experience of having worked in startups of all shapes and sizes, right from pre-revenue to $1 billion and beyond. We are thrilled to have him join us today for what promises to be a great conversation. Welcome, Manish.
Thanks, Manisha. Great to be here.
Great. So, Manish, you have been with DevRev for a couple of quarters now, right? Could you
For
tell us a little bit about the transition from Cloudflare, a public company, to an AI first startup disrupting the customer support and CRM space?
yeah, absolutely. So it's been an interesting transition, but I think so I started with Cloudflare pre-revenue. So when and in my journey from Cloudflare, I saw the company. I mean, at least sitting on the driver's seat, like take the company from zero to like getting our first customer, first 10 million, first 100 million, first getting the billion, and being a public company. So I felt that I've seen it all, and for me, I'm a builder at heart, so I really wanted to go back to a younger company and start building again. So I mean, I felt that I'm very unprepared as I was joining the DevRev, and of course, to my surprise and shock, that how as a human we forget what happens 10 years ago. So there was definitely a shock to the system, because you get so used to having this whole ecosystem around you to do things
Yeah.
for you. You have person for everything, you have process for everything, you have data available, and you have systems, the tools, and all of this. And as you come to the younger company, or the company like DevRev, which was in a very early stage, you have none of that, and you just have to kind of exercise your muscle memory again, and take one day at a time. So it's been an amazing journey. I mean, I love. It's been 4 months for me at DevRev, and I love every part of it. But I do have to activate my the muscles which I have not used in a while. I do have to keep activating those muscles. So it's like, but it's like cycling, right? I mean, if you don't cycle for 10 years, but you pick up the cycle, you know how to ride it. But you will find it hard initially, because muscles are not used to the riding the speed. So that's kind of where I am right now. But it's fun. I mean, I feel energized, alive, more utilized, and all of the things you want as a leader. So I'm loving it.
Great. I can totally relate to it. Going from a 200 plus people company to starting up again can totally relate to what you mean.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about your experience in scaling revenue and sales teams at enterprise tech companies, right? What
Yeah.
are some of your learnings?
What are the learnings? I mean, I think that a couple of things. I mean, it's like one piece is very much around. One is you cannot force PMF. Like, I mean, I think that's that I've learned the hard way is you typically, when you're building a product, you have very inside out view of the world, and when you take it to the market, you start basically kind of forcing a product without seeing like is the market really needed. So one is like you can't force it. It means that you have to have that mindset where you have certain thesis, and you take it to market, and you're going to have to iterate on it. It's as simple as that, right? I mean, don't force what you have into the market. The other piece is very much around I mean, I'm a first principle thinker, so means that I usually do not go with the preconceived notion that, hey, this is how we're going to build the go-to-market, this is how we're going to sell. And I usually go with, hey, what is the best way for in putting the product in the hands of the customer? So
Hmm.
if I take the example of Cloudflare, we were in the infrastructure space, and the wisdom of the infrastructure space is the most money sits with the top like 1,000 companies. That's where the most spending happens. So if you just look, if you look for like if you say, okay, I want to pattern match how the companies have done in the past, then you would say, let's go after the top end of the market. I mean, that becomes like the well, no brainer. But the problem with that is everybody is thinking that same way, and
Yeah.
how you're going to differentiate yourself against everybody else. So usually then you want to think about what's your strength as a company, what's your strength as a product, what's your strength as a team, and is there a pocket of opportunity you can find where you can get started, and there you will have always enough time to um, go into different segments. So for example, in the case of Cloudflare, we actually end up selling PLG infrastructure product for $20 or $200, And I remember explaining to the board, and they're looking at me is like, how are you going to build $1 billion business by selling something for $20, $200? And our response was that this is a starting point. End of the day, we only going to win if we have lots of customer, a lot of happy customer, biggest network in the world. That's
Yeah.
how we're going to get to a billion, not by just having like $1 million customer right now. So that's kind of is one is you gotta be very open about like how you're going to take the product to market. Third piece, I think, is about value sharing. I mean, I think this is a concept I feel is not well understood, in my opinion, is when you have a product, the product you're selling, there is a certain value you're providing. And you as a company, I think you try to capture as much value. So you're giving, let's say, X value to the customer. Now I'm giving X value. I want the X back. Give me X dollars now because I'm giving you so much value. But the idea is that initially you have to share the value. You cannot take all the
Yeah.
value back. Means that as a company you have to have that understanding that, okay, if we provide X value, I'm going to pass 80% of that value to the customer. I'm only going to capture 20%, and over time I will capture the value back, basically. So what that means is, and I've seen with a lot of young founders and young companies, is that they over negotiate on prices when they are setting a deal. But that's not the point. Point is, like, the customer is way more important than the ACV you sold the customer at. And if your product has enough value to it, over time you can capture the value, because people are rational. I mean, if they see a lot of value, they will pay you
Yeah.
more. In my previous life, we raised our price by 25%, and not even a single customer complained, because initially they know that we have passed so much value to them. Now we are just capturing some of it back, and it's okay. So that's the other piece. Like, when you're building an enterprise business, do not try to optimize for like, hey, I want to capture all the value right now, because then everybody's again thinking the same way. Like, how about you give something away and over time you can capture it back?
Right. I think you have to balance being a revenue generating company to trying to become a business too fast, right? I mean, that right value has to come. If you are not there in terms of PMF, you're already thinking of being a business, then that's where you take probably hasty short-term decisions.
Right. And also, even when you have a PMF, right, end of the day, um, companies win when there are a lot of customers using your product and they're happy with your product, and they
Yeah.
talk to about your product, talk to their friends, and that's how you win, right? You don't win by saying, oh, I have 10 customers and they are spending the max they could with us. That's not going to win you, basically, in the long run. So it's always like having a longer view is very, very important in building any business.
Interesting. Well, our main topic of discussion today is going to be around AI and the way it has impacted generally, all the companies and specifically your teams. So Gen AI is catching up on in a big way across all the functions, right? And it looks like 2024 will only accelerate its adoption, especially in sales. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm a big believer in AI. I mean, I think Gen AI, ML, and everything. I'm a big believer in that. And the way I've been rationalizing in my head is when you think about AI, you kind of think from there are two pieces you think about. So one is the automation part of AI, and the second is augmentation part of AI. So means that, what is automation? You are using AI to automate a lot of tasks, which your humans are doing today. So it could be, let's say, as simple as RFPs. You are automating your RFPs using AI. You are automating your, let's say, order creation. You are automating your lead assignment. So there are so many things, or you can automating with a chatbot answering the questions, or doing the initial discovery of the call. Like, there are a lot of things you can automate with AI, and I think that is a big part of like, we have already started seeing like a lot of adoption and openness to that. For example, that's kind of is the one. But the second part is the augmentation, which is, how do we augment the life of the people in a company to make them more efficient? So that would be, hey, how we provide the information to make decision making faster, or information readily available for
Hmm.
you to be able to do things maybe in a much more efficient way. So one is like, with automation, you need less people. With augmentation, the existing people more efficient. And if you have both of them, that's how you see the power of AI, like the full power of AI as a company. But the second part, I think, is something which is harder, because to have the augmentation, you have to have the knowledge map of all your data, all of your
Yeah.
customer, all the product, and what people are doing in one place. Then only AI can augment right? But the problem is right now there are so many disparate systems sitting out there. They all have different data structures. First is like it's very complex. To one is the stitch all the data together in one place. And the second piece is that now you want natural language. You want to talk to in a natural language to AI, right? And if I am a person, I'll use natural language to ask a question. But now if you have a lot of different, let's say, data places who are data structure, the AI will have to create a different query for each of them. And can you imagine if there are thousands of them, how it's going to work? So
Yeah.
that is the problem I think everybody's facing is like we created this problem in the last 20 years where it's like for every small thing, there's a different application using different data structure and differing a different cloud. So that is a complex problem to solve, but it's happening. And I think once we have, as a company, you have the knowledge map of all your data, I think AI, people are going to start seeing the massive power of AI in terms of doing things efficiently.
Yeah, I think just even in terms of life cycle of a deal, right? Right from when you make the first connect with the prospect to you close a deal, at every stage there are so many different tools that companies use, and passing that context from one tool to another, from one deal stage to another, which is actually what humans are supposed to do,
Right.
is totally lost.
Yeah. It's I think we went too far in the last 20 years. We have an app for everything, even the smallest of things.
Yeah. So we know that DevRev is an AI native company, which is a breed of companies that is still, catching on globally. Could you tell us about some of the changes in the sales process you have seen?
Yeah.
How are buyers reacting to these changes?
Um, so Uh, so I think like okay, so the biggest thing I think, I mean, as we think about it, one is the buyer overall is open, very much open to AI. Like one is like selling AI technology. I think everybody wants to have AI mandate. So that from in the perspective, selling AI is not it's becoming easier and easier, right? But I think the question you're asking more is like AI is being used to help customer with different parts of the sales cycle or support cycle. And like I'll give you example on the support because that's kind of something we sell. So in the world of support, for level 1, level 2 support, which is the simpler question, you can fully automate with the AI. But the reality is you cannot never substitute the human touch. So what happens is
Yeah.
when you automate, let's say when you use chatbot, your CSAT actually goes down. It's customer satisfaction, even though you are getting the better answer, faster answer, but because human touch is not there, we have seen with a lot of companies their CSAT comes down initially.
Hmm.
And that's the impact of AI, where people like I'm not getting that person, that personal touch which I want. And same thing I think happening on the sales cycle as well. As you use more and more AI, you will lose some of it, but
Yeah.
you capture it back through efficiency and all of the things. But that's you have to be accepting of that. Another piece is that I think initially, as you're building, let's say, automation in your sales process, have human be co-pilot to the AI so that it's not totally machine. And over time, the machine will have the empathy and all the things they could do. So maybe they can mimic more human behavior, and at that time you can have less human. But I would not substitute humans completely out of the automation. You definitely
Yeah.
want them to be co-pilot and then let the machine learn from human, and then over time you can reduce the humans.
Totally. You also spoke about value sharing in
Mhm.
beginning, right? So are you seeing a difference in how customers are thinking about success with Gen AI? Because it's all about productivity, right? The main
Right.
thing that Gen AI is giving to the customers is huge productivity gains. So are you looking at, more conversations which are more value based and not just transaction based?
Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes. I think as you, I mean, like from my personal experience selling DevRev, I mean, when we go into a customer conversation, what we are doing is two things. One is we are through automation reducing the number of agents you need on the support side.
Hmm.
And the second is through augmentation, we say that existing agents becomes at least 30-40% more efficient. So means like with automation, maybe you need 50% less agent and then existing 50% becomes more efficient. Another 30%. So means like you only need 35% of the kind of agent capacity than today if you deploy completely in a steady state, right? So typically then the conversation very much becomes about, okay, this is the value you are getting and how much value do you want to pass it to customer, and how many you want to capture it.
Yeah.
So the challenge right now is, I mean, which we actually thought about very early on, is AI is expensive. Like, when you think about the AI, the whole
Yeah.
layer, there's the LLMs, but then there's a vector database, and there's all the pieces in the middle. It costs you a lot to offer the
Yeah.
generative AI. And what we tried to do was, we actually built our own vector database as a company. And the reason was that we don't want to add another layer of cost into the mix, because end of the day, in the world of AI is going to become a commodity. I mean, we all know.
Yeah.
And what happens in a commodity is, whoever can offer the lowest price is going to win in the market. Means that the companies who start thinking about the whole ecosystem, like, if you think about the value chain of the AI, where all the cost is, and you start finding like efficiency in each of the pieces, are the ones who can offer the most efficient one. And we are thinking from that perspective. So means that we are able to offer AI at a much cheaper rate, means that we are able to capture more value back. Because I mean, if I'm a customer, I'm comparing two
Yeah.
solutions, right? I'm getting the same value from both, but in one, we can actually capture more back because we are cheaper versus the other. So that's kind of how we're thinking about. But to your point, value sharing is definitely is it's a value based pricing. It's definitely it's not a cost based pricing. So means that you always talk about, hey, how much value we're adding, and you wanna take some of that value with us, and some I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, I think, yeah, with AI and LLMs, we have barely scratched the surface. Though it feels like there are too many companies building AI products. It's just been literally what, a little more than a year when the
Yeah,
Chat GPT was launched, right? It just everything. There's so much information already. It feels we have been into this Gen AI moment for a decade now, but it's just
yeah,
been actually
right.
just 18 months.
Yeah, it's moving so fast, right? I think I read
Yeah.
Elon Musk said that AI is getting 10 times more efficient every month or something like that.
Oh,
Some
wow.
something like I read it like on Twitter. I mean,
Yeah.
something of that sort. So means that it's just getting more and more efficient every day. Now
Yeah.
ChatGPT is
Yeah.
coming, but the video functionality end of this year. I mean, I just saw it's amazing. I mean, I know there are a lot of
Yeah.
things to figure out, but like overall the promise is there. Can you imagine? AI can now
Yeah.
create videos for you with the human-like figures and do the exact same thing. So it's the efficiency you can imagine in the world of publication.
Right. How do
Yeah,
you think, because you're talking about video, so how do you think the companies who are actually, solving a niche, for example, companies who are building a video editing tool, right? I mean, you
right.
just put your
Mhm.
query in, let's say, natural language, and then you get a video out of it and you can edit it. How do you see these companies actually competing with the likes of Chat GPT, who are
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
launching different products left, right, and center?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like when usually you have a new technology comes around, which is actually
Hmm.
a transformation technology. Like if you think about the cloud in the 2000s, or now AI in the late in 2020s, right? Like it leads to a lot of innovation. There are a lot of companies get founded, and I had this conversation. We had this conversation with Vinod Khosla, and Vinod Khosla, his point of view is that, hey, when that happens, a lot of companies get founded. It happened in 2000, massive amount of companies. But the thing is, typically what happens is that most of those companies fail, and only some survive. And typically, and the reason why most of the companies fail is that people underestimate how this technology can evolve over time, and you try to build like a
Yeah.
something kind of wrapper on top of it that more than like a technology can do itself. So like and same
Yeah.
applies in the world of AI. Any company out there, if you are just building, making the existing AI better, you're gonna get wiped out. Like the video, for example, next
Yeah.
version of GPT is gonna come and it's gonna have that. For example, right? There's
Yeah.
this company. I was thinking investing. What they are doing is which I end up not investing. What they are doing is they are taking. If you have a video, like it's a 20 minutes video, it will create snippets of it, like 20 seconds videos. If even it will match like how the person is saying, and it will create text and all that. You can put you can, from one video you can create thousands of videos. And that company went from 0 to 11 million ARR in 9 months, because there is no other solution out there. But if you see the next
Yeah.
version, ChatGPT is going to have that. So what is they're going to lose their business. Basically, they're going to be out of business very, very fast. So means that you have to think about the application of AI if you really want to build a company, versus just making existing AI slightly better. So like, for example, like what are you
Yeah.
doing with the with the sales intelligence, using AI in the context of how do I make life of salespeople more efficient. That is something is going to survive the test of time versus how do I just make this AI slightly better, and that's kind of,
Yeah.
so that's why you have to use the application part of the AI and build the companies on it versus just making it slightly better, and because all those things,
Yeah.
and nobody knows what's going to come out as well. That's the problem, right? So it means that
Yeah, that's the problem.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think getting deep into the workflows and building an end-to-end solution is always, I mean, that is something companies like ChatGPT and Microsoft are not going to do.
They, of course, I mean, they're not going to go stitch your data together. They're not going to build an
Yeah,
application on it for you to be able to, like, have search things or build things. That's not the use case.
great. So, what are your goals for the year ahead? What do you want to achieve this year? The top two ones.
What's my goal? I mean, as a company, I mean, we started selling 12 months ago, and we had an amazing reception in the market. We got some very high quality customers, and our ARR. I mean, we came to the ARR, which typically we have not seen any company do in the first 12 months. So we are starting on a very strong base. But that said, we are a very ambitious company, and I'm also very ambitious. I want to increase our ARR 4x this year of what we did last year. And
Wow.
that's my that's the goal of the company. That's my goal. That's kind of where we want to be. But on top of that, I mean, I think this is the thing is the ARI is just a milestone, right? But what's more important also for me is really finding a repeatable, predictable sales motion. End of the day, once you
Yeah.
have that, then you can throw a lot of fuel at the fire and it's gonna explode, right? And that's kind of much more important. And we think, I mean, if we can grow 4x, we will find that repeatability in our go-to-market motion. Because I mean, we have an amazing platform, but the problem with the platform is that it can do so many things. Where do you start, and where do you bring the customer in?
Yeah.
Those are the things we are just figuring it out as we go.
So, what is that moment when you will know that this is the right time? We have hit repeatability, and now
Yeah.
we want to, put more fuel to the fire.
Right. So I think the simplest way to think about it is as you adding a dollar, if you continue to get the same ROI, same return in a predictable way, that's when you can keep throwing more and more money at it. So that's kind of what you want to get. That's basically is the idea is how do you invest money in a way that that you can get something out of it, because the problem starts to happen when you spend a lot of money without seeing the return. And then um, one is like, I mean, of course, you're burning cash, but the other, what happens is people become
Hmm.
impatient, and then they start making short-term decisions in a business, and then
Yeah.
usually then basically leads to like a lot of other challenges. So you don't want to be in that position where you feel that I'm pushed into a corner, I have to make some tough calls.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is to control yourself, not making short-term decisions because that's a bad slippery slope.
It is, yeah, very much, yeah, right. Because I mean, we all
Yeah.
know no companies was built in a month or in a year, in a quarter, in a
Yeah.
year. It takes a very long time. But the things we do
Yeah.
early on, it's what's going to be driving the scaling of the future. Like smallest of things you put right in place right now, like the culture part of it, or anything. So you gotta make sure you get that right. Uh,
Sure, absolutely. Well, as promised, I think this has been a very delightful and insight-rich conversation. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Vintage Club Conversations. It was great catching up with you.
yeah, absolutely, it's my pleasure. Thanks for the questions. I mean, it's always amazing to talk to great founders, and I'm glad to be here.